So I just finished with uploading my second video, which I'm now redoing, and I'll explain why. I submitted it. I submitted it to YouTube, waiting for it to upload. I went in and watched the end of my Knicks game, Knicks Suns. They got routed. It's just another night as a Knicks fan. Came back, looked at my computer, and it told me that I needed approval for a video over 15 minutes. I went through the initial process. They called me. I think it was an auto call or something. And then I just decided the video is 23 minutes. I should just do a new one. So I'm just gonna do it again. And this will be under 15 minutes. One thing I wanna note, I'm not editing these videos. So if I have some grammatical errors or get dates wrong on record releases, stuff like that, I cough, which somebody made a point last video that I did it quite a bit, got a cold. I'm just gonna roll with it and keep going because I wanna be able to put a couple of these up a week, and if I keep editing them, it's gonna take me forever. I do have a dog who may stroll in and out from time to time. His name's Bennett. He's named after Jay Bennett of Wilco. Jay passed in 2009. I adopted my dog shortly thereafter and gave him Jay's name, Jay's last name, and he responds to it, so we're good. He's right around the corner taking a little nap, but I'm sure he will find his way into the frame at some point. So what we're going to talk about in this video, I was going to talk about my high school years, but I am opting not to because I wasn't really listening to great music then. Sort of soft rock-ish stuff. So we'll get to that we may never get to that video. We may just pass on that one. And we're gonna shoot straight ahead to 1994 when I was in college, and I really went through sort of my second awakening following the early discoveries that I talked about in my first video. This was really the one that opened up the floodgates. So at the time I was spending a lot of time with a small group of friends, probably about 8 or 10 of us. I guess not that small. But my buddy Brian and I were very close, especially around music. He actually, just not a couple weeks ago, it was probably a year ago, but he sent me this. This is the Songs Ohio Jason Molina Journey on 7-inch box set, which is quite hard to come by. It was released on Record Store Day 2014. I got shut out. I just, in passing over text recently, or whenever this was, told him that it was on my short list of things that I really wanted to get, and about 3 days later it arrived in the mail. He had picked up 2 on that Record Store Day, and he surrendered 1 to me. An incredibly nice gesture. I still owe him. So Brian, if you're watching, if you're one of my 21 subscribers, as of this airing, or as of this taping, I'll have something in the mail to you shortly. It's overdue. So 94, early 94, we're listening to a lot of classic rock, Neil Young, Steely Dan. I'm pushing Springsteen on everyone. That'll be a theme that you'll hear about quite a bit. Beatles, Stones, all the good stuff, Zeppelin. And we were also, when considering sort of present day stuff, we were really into the jam band scene. So folks like The Samples and God Street Wine. We were listening to Fish. We saw Fish a bunch of times. We saw them in New Jersey. We saw them in Hartford, Connecticut. I may have seen them at Great Woods outside of Boston. The Dead, saw Dead a couple times, Giant Stadium in 94 or 95. And that one evening, Big Head Todd and the Monsters were playing on campus at school. And we went, Brian and I and a bunch of others. And we stayed for maybe a song, 2. I remember Brian and I just looking at each other and being like, and we bailed. And probably went to one of the local pubs, put money in the jukebox, and then listened to records throughout the night, got up the next day. That's not the story that I'm getting to. That following morning, our friend Chris, who we called Cubby, he had a friend down from Maine named Andrew, and the night prior, when we went to Big Head Todd for 5 minutes, Andrew had asked me if I wanted to join him to see a show at the Paradise on Com Ave. I didn't even remember, or I don't. When he shared the band name, I had never heard of them, and we just passed, and that was that. Following morning, I asked him how the show was. He said it was incredible, and he's a pretty laconic guy, and to hear sort of that sort of passion out of him got me a little bit fired up to hear what this band was all about. He asked me if I wanted to hear them. I said yes. He went out to his car, grabbed a CD, brought it in, and went straight to song 6 on this record. This is Anodyne by Uncle Tupelo. Their final record came out in 1993, just prior to them disbanding in 1994. This is part of the band. That's Jeff Tweedy, who would go on to form, obviously, Wilco, and playing Golden Smog and Loose Fur, and Tweedy, the band with his son, as well as his solo records that came out just last year. I think they both came out last year, which are really good. Ken Coomer, who went on to be in the band Swag. Can't remember if he founded that band. I think he's a studio musician in Nashville now, doing really good stuff. And Jay Farrar, who went on to form Sunvolt, and also was in Gob Iron, and also has a bunch of solo records. If you ask me, the best being Sebastopol, which came out probably 15 years ago, maybe even more. This was Uncle Tupelo, and you also see the name of this channel has been changed to The Long Cut, which is right there. Song 6 is New Madrid. That's the one that Andrew played for us. And Brian and I heard the song, and I think we listened to a few more tracks, and we went right to Tower Records. And we each bought Anodyne on CD. We would then both go on to buy all 3 of their other records, all 3 of Uncle Tupelo's other records. 1990's No Depression, 1991's Still Feel Gone, which was my favorite for a good 20 years, right here. An incredible mix of sort of punk and country or folk, all sorts of genres. And then the last being 1992's March 16th to 20th, 1992, which is produced by R.E.M's Peter Buck. And thus began, Brian and I were sort of in this together, this new Americana, alt country, whatever you want to call it, this new scene. But I really went sort of haphazard, I don't know what the right word is. It became a huge part of my life. Bands, I'm just looking at my CD shelves, bands like the V-Roys, Marat, Slobberbone, the Backsliders, the Jayhawks behind me, Hollywood Town Hall, one of the great album covers and albums of that period. Following the demise of Uncle Tupelo, the first to put out a record was Jay Farrar with Sunvolt, and this is Trace, a fantastic record, top to bottom, including the cover of Ronnie Wood's Mystifies Me. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous record, really much in the sort of the Still Feel Gone sort of feel of stripped down tracks, and then hard charging tracks. This is a little bit more Crazy Horse than a punk feel, but an unbelievable first release for Jay and his band. Next came Wilco's AM. I think this is the only pressing on vinyl from when the record first came out. They've had 2 subsequent reissues, one just a regular reissue, and then a deluxe, which came out a few years ago. But the red colored disc came out in '95. I'm pretty sure that's how I remember it. And this is a very good record. It's not Trace. Jeff Tweedy's best music was still yet to come, and it would come very quickly. Following year with 1996's Being There, and then Summer Teeth, then Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, and then a slew of others. but I still listen to this record quite a bit, probably as much as any Wilco record. Couple little cool anecdotes. So I'm trying to keep this under 15 minutes. We got 4 and change left. This is a restaurant flyer from Johnny D's in Somerville, Massachusetts, where I saw Wilco for the first time in December of 1994. You can see right there, Wilco, former members of Uncle Tupelo. This is actually signed by all members of the band, all 5 members of the band at the time. It's fading and has been fading over time. I should probably put it in a frame. Maybe that'll be my project for this weekend. But really cool to have this still. It was one of their early shows. And the following summer, I saw Wilco in New York City with a bunch of friends. It was really their introduction to the band. These were close friends of mine from high school. On the bill was Blue Mountain and Scud Mountain Boys, a phenomenal bill. And the following night, the following day, I drove to Boston to see Wilco again at the Paradise, same place where I could have seen Uncle Tupelo about a year and a half earlier. Paradise is still one of my favorite rock clubs in the world. Wilco were incredible that night, and I had this photo taken with Jeff. I don't know who the random guy is, but he's pretty pumped, and maybe I can track him down someday. I sent a copy of this to my brother in Cincinnati. He saw Wilco at, I believe, Bogart's in Cincinnati, and had Jeff sign this afterwards and mailed it to me. My brother did, Jeff didn't. And I still treasure this. The same photo's right there behind me, as you can probably see. Lots of Wilco stuff here. What else do we have? Oh, last story in this story. This record, Sunvolt, live at the Bottom Line, February 12th, 1992. Issued by Rhino, the fantastic Rhino Entertainment in 2016. Brian and I, in 96, drove to this show from Boston during school. We left during the day, got to the venue. It was frigid out, even more so than the Wilco Boston show. This was one of the coldest nights I'd ever experienced in my life. Brian and I were alternating, running in and out of a restaurant on the corner just to get a coffee or a beer or whatever. So only one of us had to withstand the incredible cold air. But this was aired on WNEW in New York, which was a huge deal for Sunvolt at the time. WNEW was one of the 2 big classic rock stations that were around when I was growing up, the other being K-Rock, 92.3. And Sunvolt were absolutely sensational that night. I know I'm saying that about pretty much everything that I'm talking about in this video, but these were the events of college that sort of changed everything for me. It's the reason why I wanted to work in music. When I graduated college, I tried to get a job with Tony Margarita, who was managing the Bottle Rockets, Wilco, and others. I tried to get a job at None Such Records once they signed Wilco. Didn't get those jobs, but I have worked throughout music for most of my career, and it's been a true honor, and it's because of these records that it happened. Last anecdote, we have less than a minute left. This is a flyer for the town of Belleville, Illinois, which should be the title of this video, a band from Belleville. My brother and I, in 1998 or 1999, drove to Belleville, which is where Uncle Tupelo were from, and went on sort of a research trip just to learn more about the band. We didn't know what we were going to do with it, but we were so enamored with these guys that we went to the town and wrote a lot, took a lot of notes and photos, and it was an incredible trip. We actually went to a pub one night, and the band playing took a break. One of the members walked up to me. I was wearing a Sunvolt hat, and he said, do you like Sunvolt? I said, yes. He said, I'm Jay Farrar's brother. It was either Dade or Wade Farrar, I can't remember which. Super sweet guy, and that was an incredible trip that I'll always remember that my brother and I took. We drove from Jersey to St. Louis direct, no stops. That's it. This is my story of Uncle Tupelo changing everything for me. Hope you have a good weekend. Take care.